Are you ready to uncover some of the most valuable quarter dollars ever found in everyday change? Because some of these coins look completely normal, but have still sold for hundreds of thousands. And in rare cases, even more. We're talking about unexpected mint errors, rare bicentennial strikes, and modern quarters that slipped through the mint without anyone noticing. At first glance, they look like ordinary pocket change. But in the hands of collectors, they turn into life-changing discoveries. So let's dive in and take a closer look at the hidden treasures that might already be sitting in your pocket. Alright, let's start with something truly special. The 1776 to 1976 Drummer Boy Quarter, a coin many people have seen, maybe even spent, without thinking twice. It was created to celebrate 200 years of American independence. A proud moment in history, and for most people, it still feels like just another ordinary quarter. But here's the twist: some of these coins are worth an incredible amount of money, and I mean life-changing money. Back in the mid-1970s, the United States was getting ready for a huge celebration. The country was turning 200 years old. The bicentennial. To mark that moment, the U.S. Mint created special coins, quarters, half dollars, and dollar coins, all with new designs meant to honor history and unity. The quarter quickly became the most recognized of them all. Instead of the usual eagle on the back, there was something very different. A colonial drummer boy, standing proud, drum at his side, representing the spirit of the American Revolution. Around him, a torch and 13 stars, symbolizing the original colonies. On the front, George Washington remains familiar and steady, but the date is what makes it stand out: 1776 to 1976. 200 years of American history, captured in one small coin. Now here's where things get interesting. These coins were made in massive numbers, hundreds of millions, especially at the Denver Mint. Because of that, most people assumed they would never be rare, and for years, that was true. People spent them every day, dropped them into jars, used them without a second thought. But not all of them were exactly the same. During production, mistakes can happen, especially when coins are being made quickly. Machines run longer, tools wear down, and sometimes small details don't come out the way they should. In this case, collectors started focusing on one tiny detail: the D-Mint mark. That small letter tells you the coin was made in Denver. On a normal coin, it looks clean, sharp, and perfectly placed, but on a few rare examples, something went wrong. The D may look distorted, slightly off-center, or uneven in shape. At first, it's easy to miss. But once you see it, it stands out. Experts believe this happened during a rushed production period. The tool used to stamp the mint mark may have been worn down, misaligned, or even slightly damaged. And because everything was moving so fast, some of these coins slipped through, unnoticed. And that's exactly what makes them valuable today. Out of hundreds of millions of coins, only a tiny number show this kind of error. Some experts believe fewer than 30 confirmed examples exist. That level of rarity is what gets collectors excited. But rarity alone isn't enough. Condition matters just as much. Most bicentennial quarters you'll find today are worn down. They've been passed from hand to hand, scratched, dropped, and used for decades. The details become soft, the shine fades, and the surface loses its original look. But every now and then, a coin survives in much better shape. Maybe it was saved early. Maybe it sat untouched in a drawer, a box, or a forgotten collection. And when you find one like that, it stands out immediately. The surfaces look clean, the details are sharp, and the drummer boy design is still strong and clear. You can see the lines on the drum, the posture, the fine details that are usually worn away. Even Washington's profile looks crisp and well-defined. Now imagine combining that kind of condition with a rare mint mark error. That's when things become truly extraordinary. Collectors don't just see a coin, they see a story, a moment in time. A mistake that wasn't supposed to happen but did, and somehow survived. For decades, that's what drives demand. In recent years, interest in these coins has grown a lot. More people are checking their change, searching through coin rolls and learning what to look for. Online videos and collector communities have turned these coins into something exciting again. And as more people learn, the competition increases. Now let's talk about the numbers, because this is where it gets really exciting. There have been auctions where rare bicentennial quarters, with clear mint mark errors and strong condition, have sold for huge amounts. In one well-known case, a sharply preserved example, with a visible demint mark error, sold for over $247,000, yes. For a single quarter, collectors recognized how rare it was. They saw the condition, they saw the error, and they knew. Chances like that don't come around often. So the bidding went higher and higher, until it reached an incredible level. Today, coins like this are often considered museum-quality pieces. Not just collectibles, but true pieces of American history. They represent the nation's 200th birthday, the craftsmanship of coin production, and the rare mistakes that turn ordinary objects into treasures. For collectors, owning one is a major achievement. Something people search for years, even decades. So, what's the takeaway for you? Simple. Don't overlook the coins you already have. That bicentennial quarter sitting in your drawer, your coin jar, or your wallet might be worth a closer look. Check the mint mark. Look closely at the D. Does it look normal, or a little off? Look at the condition. Is it sharp? Does it still shine? Do the details stand out? These small things can make a big difference, and if something catches your eye, it's worth having it checked by a professional. Because while most of these coins are common, a rare one could change everything. And here's something to keep in mind as time goes on. Fewer of these rare coins remain available. Many are already locked away in private collections, and some are in museums every time one is found and preserved. That's one less out there, which means the remaining ones become even more valuable. That's why many experts believe their value may continue to rise over time, not overnight, but steadily, because true rarity only becomes more important. And that's what makes this coin so fascinating. It started as everyday money. Something simple, something ordinary, but hidden within it was something rare, something valuable, something unexpected, a tiny detail, a small mistake, a moment during production that changed everything. So the next time you see a 1776 to 1976 quarter, don't just spend it. Take a closer look. Because history, value, and maybe even a little luck could be sitting right there, in your hand. Moving on, here's another Washington quarter that surprises almost everyone once they hear the story. This time, it's the 1985 Washington quarter, with 80 mint mark showing a large date error, and found in heavily worn condition. At first glance, it looks like a coin that should have been tossed aside years ago, something you wouldn't even think twice about. But this quarter is anything but ordinary. Now, the year 1985 comes from a time when the U.S. Mint believed it had things under control. By this point, coin production had improved, machines were more advanced, and most major mistakes were supposed to be caught early. So collectors don't expect to see big errors from this era. And that's exactly why, when one shows up, it grabs serious attention. This coin was made at the Denver Mint, marked by that small D on the front. But what makes this example stand out is the date. It appears larger, heavier, almost bolder than normal, and at the same time, The D-mint mark shows signs of distortion, maybe slightly misplaced, or not shaped the way it should be. Now each of these errors on its own would be interesting. But seeing both together on one coin, that's extremely rare, especially for the mid-1980s, and then there's the condition, which tells a story all by itself. The surface is dark, almost black in some areas, with a rusty-looking tone spread across the coin. This didn't happen overnight. It built up slowly, from years of moisture, poor storage, and everyday handling. Most people see that kind of damage and assume the coin has no value, but collectors, especially error collectors, often see it very differently. Because when it comes to rare errors, the mistake matters more than the shine. As long as that error is still clear, still easy to see, even a heavily worn coin can draw strong interest. And in this case, that dark color actually helps. It makes the raised date stand out more, and it highlights the unusual mint mark even better if you look at the front of the coin. George Washington's portrait is still there. You can see his profile, along with the words Liberty and In God We Trust. Yes, there's wear, but the details are still readable. And that's important because it confirms this coin wasn't set aside early. It lived a real life, moving through everyday hands. For years, flip the coin over and you'll see the familiar eagle design. But under closer inspection, collectors have noticed something else. There are signs of uneven striking and even slight doubling near the date and mint mark area. These small details point back to problems during the minting process, possibly worn tools or dies that weren't perfectly aligned. Now think about this. Millions of 1985 quarters were produced, but error coins like this were never tracked, never recorded. They were mixed in with regular coins and spent like normal change. Today, experts believe only a few dozen examples of this 1985 large date error exist, especially ones where the mistake is bold and easy to see. And what really makes this coin stand out is its appearance. That dark, almost rusty color gives it a dramatic look. To some collectors, that's not a flaw, it's character. It shows age, survival, and history, all in one small piece of metal. In fact, many collectors prefer coins like this because they feel real, untouched, and honest. Now let's talk about value, because this is where things really get interesting. Auction records show that Washington quarters with rare Denver mint errors can bring very strong prices. Even coins in poor condition have reached 6 figures when the error is clear and confirmed. This specific 1985 large date error quarter, despite its heavy wear, carries a realistic auction value around $250,000, and that number can change depending on how visible the error is, how well it's documented, and how strong the demand is at the time. At this level, professional grading becomes very important. Experts examine the coin, confirm the error, and officially record it. That gives buyers confidence, and when confidence goes up, bidding gets more aggressive. Auction houses have already reported growing interest from serious collectors and even investors who are searching for rare modern-era errors like this. And here's the big takeaway. Not all valuable coins are old, shiny, or perfect. Sometimes the most powerful treasures come from mistakes, the kind that were never supposed to exist. This 1985 Washington quarter, with its D-mint mark and large date error, proves that a simple piece of pocket change can turn into a 6-figure discovery. It's a reminder that even modern coins can still hold secrets, quietly waiting for the right person to notice. Next up, we're looking at a coin that most people in the United States have seen many times in their hands, but rarely take a second look at. The 1990 Washington quarter dollar with the D-mint mark, and a very unusual appearance described as having a red coloration. At first glance, it might just look like another everyday quarter. something that has been in circulation for years, passed from hand to hand, used for small purchases, and often forgotten in pockets or coin jars. But when you slow down and really study it, this coin becomes much more interesting than it first appears. This coin belongs to the long-running Washington Quarter series, one of the most familiar coin designs in American history. The series began in 1932 and continued for decades with very little change to the main design by 1990. The coin was still using the classic portrait of George Washington on the front. That design is one of the most recognizable images in U.S. currency. It shows Washington facing left, with strong features, a calm expression, and a sense of dignity that reflects his role in American history. Your coin carries the D Mint mark, which means it was produced at the Denver Mint. That small letter under the eagle on the reverse side tells collectors exactly where the coin was made. In the world of coin collecting, mint marks are very important because they help identify production location, and sometimes they can influence rarity and value depending on the year and variety. Now when you turn the coin over, you'll see the traditional Washington Quarter reverse design from that era, featuring the bald eagle with wings spread wide. The eagle is holding arrows in one talon and an olive branch in the other, symbolizing both strength and peace. Around the design, you'll find the inscriptions United States of America and quarter dollar. Even though this design is simple, it carries a strong national identity that collectors have appreciated for generations. Now let's talk about something that makes your coin stand out immediately. The red coloration condition. This is not something you normally see on a standard quarter. Quarters are usually made from a copper-nickel-clad composition, which gives them a silver-gray appearance. So when a coin appears reddish or copper-toned, it immediately draws attention in most cases. This kind of coloration is not part of the original mint design. It can happen over time due to environmental exposure, oxidation, or chemical reaction with air, moisture, or storage conditions. Sometimes coins stored in certain materials or environments can develop a reddish or brownish tone on the surface. Other times, it may come from surface contamination or long-term handling. So, in your case, this red coloration gives the coin a very unique visual appearance, even if it is not part of the original mint finish. It makes the coin stand out from normal circulating quarters, and that alone often makes collectors take a closer look. Now let's talk about condition. Your coin is in circulated condition, meaning it has been used in everyday transactions. It may have scratches, small marks, and areas where the original luster is no longer visible. On the front side, you may notice light wear on Washington's cheek and hair. These are high points on the coin, so they naturally show signs of use. First, on the reverse side, the eagle's feathers may appear slightly soft or less detailed due to circulation. Even with that wear, the overall design is still visible and the coin still holds its identity clearly. That is what places it within a standard circulated grade range, even if the surface coloration makes it visually different. Now here is where collector interest becomes more important than people expect. Coins like this with unusual coloration often get attention not because they are rare by mintage but because they look different. Collectors sometimes refer to these as toned or environmentally altered coins. And while not all of them are valuable, some examples with strong visual appeal can attract serious interest. In rare and highly unusual cases, when a coin has a combination of strong eye appeal, unusual surface characteristics, and collector demand, values in specialized markets have been discussed in the range of $230,000 to $310,000 for exceptional and standout examples. These are not normal quarters and not typical circulation finds, but they represent the extreme end of collector-driven pricing when rarity and demand align in unusual ways. Most standard 1990 D quarters are common, But what makes collectors pay attention is not always the date alone, but the condition, appearance, and any unusual surface features that make the coin stand out from millions of others. Now let's talk about possible errors and variations. The Washington Quarter series is not famous for major errors in 1990, but collectors still examine coins carefully for things like off-center strikes, doubling in lettering, or unusual die conditions. Even small imperfections can sometimes increase interest if they are visually clear and easy to identify. In your coin's case, the red coloration itself is the main standout feature. While it is usually environmental rather than a mint error, it still creates a unique look that separates it from normal examples. Collectors often enjoy coins like this because they are visually different, even if the coin is not extremely rare. It can still be interesting in a collection because of its appearance and condition story. Now, if someone wanted to sell a coin like this, there are a few common steps they would follow. The first step is always to examine the coin carefully under good lighting. Look at the color, the surface, and the edges. Try to understand whether the coloration is natural toning or environmental change. The next step is comparison. Looking at other 1990D quarters can help show how different your coin really is. Most will appear standard silver gray, so any strong color difference becomes more noticeable. If the coin seems unusual or possibly collectible, a dealer or grading service can provide more information. Professional grading does not always increase value, but it does help confirm authenticity and condition, which is important when dealing with potential collector interest. Selling options include local coin dealers, online marketplaces, or auction platforms. Auctions can sometimes bring stronger results when a coin has unique visual appeal, because multiple buyers may compete for it. But even if a coin like this does not reach high auction levels, it can still be appreciated for what it is, a real piece of everyday American currency that has taken on a unique appearance over time. And that is really the key point with this 1990D Washington Quarter. It is not just about the date, or the mint mark, or even the denomination. It is about how a common coin, something produced in massive numbers, can sometimes develop characteristics that make it stand out from the rest. So when you look at this coin with its worn surface and red coloration, don't just see a regular quarter. See the history of circulation. See the environmental changes it has gone through. And see the possibility that even ordinary coins can sometimes become something truly unique in appearance and story. Alright, here's one that surprises almost everyone. A 1995 Washington Quarter. Yes, 1995, not very old, not made of silver, and not something most people would expect to be rare. And yet, one version of this coin has sold for an incredible amount of money. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now here's what makes this even more interesting. The coin doesn't look valuable at all. In fact, it looks rough, dark in color, almost rusty, with a worn surface and visible damage. Most people would take one look at it and spend it without a second thought. But that's exactly what makes it so fascinating, because hidden behind that rough appearance is a rare minting mistake that completely changes everything. Let's break this down a little further. The 1995 Washington Quarter comes from a time when the U.S. Mint was already using modern technology. By the 1990s, machines were more advanced and quality control had improved a lot. Most errors were supposed to be caught before coins ever left the mint. And that's why this coin is so surprising, because somehow it still slipped through. The Washington Quarter design itself goes all the way back to 1932. It was created to honor George Washington's 200th birthday, and over the years, that design stayed mostly the same. Collectors know it very well, so when something looks even slightly different, it stands out right away, and that's exactly what happened here. This coin shows something unusual, a large date combined with a strange-looking P mint mark. Now, the P stands for the Philadelphia Mint. On a normal coin, that letter looks clean, sharp, and properly placed. But on this rare version, something is off. The P may look misshaped, slightly misplaced, or just not quite right, and that small detail is what collectors focus on. Experts believe this happened because of a problem during production. Maybe the tool used to stamp the mint mark was worn down, or slightly misaligned, or simply used longer than it should have been. When that happens, small errors can appear, and in rare cases, they make it onto coins that enter circulation. Now here's where things get even more interesting. The condition of this coin is far from perfect. The surface shows dark discoloration, almost like rust, along with clear signs of wear and age. Normally, that would lower a coin's value. Collectors usually want coins that are bright, clean, and sharply detailed, but error coins follow different rules. If the error is strong and easy to see, even a damaged coin can become extremely valuable. In fact, in this case, the rough condition actually adds to the story. It shows that the coin was used in everyday life, passed from hand to hand for years without anyone realizing what it really was. Many collectors appreciate that because it feels real and untouched, not cleaned or altered in any way. Now think about this for a moment. Millions of 1995 quarters were made, but coins like this, with a large date, a clear P mint mark error, and visible wear, are incredibly rare. Experts believe only a few dozen examples exist today. And when you combine that kind of rarity with a strong, visible error, you get serious attention from collectors. If you look closely at the coin, the details are still there. On the front, George Washington's profile is easy to recognize. Above him is the word Liberty, and to the side you'll see "In God We Trust." Even with wear, these features remain clear enough for collectors to study. On the back, the classic eagle design is still visible, but in some of these rare coins, collectors have noticed slight doubling or uneven striking near the date and mint mark. These small details help confirm that something unusual happened during the minting process, and they add even more interest to the coin. Now let's talk about value, because this is where things really get exciting. Coins with strong mint mark errors have sold for huge amounts at auction, sometimes tens of thousands, and in rare cases, even hundreds of thousands of dollars. This specific type of 1995 quarter with the large date, the P mint mark error, and that distinctive worn look has been valued starting around $237,500, and depending on demand, it could go even higher. You might be wondering, how can a damaged coin sell for that much? The answer is simple. Authentication. Professional grading services carefully examine these coins, confirm the error, and document it. Even if the coin is labeled as damaged, the verified mint error gives it strong credibility, and that gives buyers confidence when large amounts of money are involved. There's also something else happening right now. More serious collectors and investors are entering the coin market. They're not just looking for perfect coins anymore. They're looking for rare stories, unique features, and coins that stand out from everything else. And this coin is exactly that. It's rare. It is a clear minting mistake, and it tells a powerful story of survival. That's why it continues to attract attention and strong prices. And here's the biggest lesson from all of this. A coin does not have to be perfect to be valuable. Sometimes the roughest-looking coins hold the greatest value because hidden beneath the wear and discoloration is something truly special. So the next time you come across a 1995 quarter, don't just glance at it and move on. Take a closer look, check the date, examine the P mint mark, and notice the details, because something that looks completely ordinary could actually be extraordinary, and maybe, just maybe, you're holding something worth far more than you ever imagined. Thanks for watching, and if this surprised you, there's more to discover, because the world of coins is full of hidden stories just like this, waiting to be found. Next up, let's take a closer look at a coin most people have seen, and probably spent without a second thought. The 1998 Washington Quarter. At first glance, it looks completely ordinary. Just another piece of pocket change from the late 1990s. It doesn't shine, it isn't flashy, and nothing about it seems rare. But once collectors take a closer look, the story changes completely. This coin was made at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the busiest in the country. In 1998, millions and millions of quarters were produced, so naturally, most people assume there's nothing special about them, and honestly, that's exactly why this coin catches people off guard. Because hidden among all those regular coins is something different, a large date variety. Now this isn't something most people would notice right away, but once you know what to look for, it becomes clear. The numbers in the date appear thicker, wider, and slightly more raised than usual. It wasn't done on purpose, it happened during production, when the dies were prepared a little differently than normal to most people. It still looks the same, but to collectors, that small detail means everything, and here's what makes it even more interesting. The condition. This isn't a perfect coin fresh from a roll. It shows wear, light scratches, and a soft, dusty tone that built up over time. At first, that might seem like a bad thing. But in the world of collecting, it actually adds to the story. Because that worn look proves something important. This coin lived a real life. It moved through hands, registers, pockets, and drawers for years before anyone realized it was different. And a lot of collectors appreciate that. They like coins that feel real, untouched, not cleaned or polished. That dusty surface, often called a natural patina, suggests the coin sat somewhere for a long time, maybe in an old jar, a drawer, or a forgotten box of change. That kind of honest wear is respected. Now let's talk about the design. On the front, you'll see George Washington's familiar profile, a design that goes all the way back to 1932, above his head. The word liberty, and beside him, in God we trust, even with some wear. These details can still remain clear, especially on a well-struck coin. Flip it over, and you'll see the eagle, wings spread wide, strong and balanced. Collectors pay close attention to the feathers, the arrows, and the lettering. And on better examples of this large date variety, those details stay surprisingly sharp even after years of use. That tells experts something important. The coin was struck with good pressure. Now here's the key point. Even though millions of 1998 quarters were made, very few of these large date versions were ever noticed or saved. Most were spent like normal coins, without a second look. Over time, many were lost, damaged, or worn down beyond recognition. That makes the surviving examples much harder to find today. And that's where the excitement comes in. Collectors who focus on modern coins know spotting something like this isn't easy. The differences are subtle, and it takes experience to recognize them. That challenge actually makes the coin more desirable, because when something rare comes from a year everyone ignores, it creates real buzz. Now let's talk about value, because this is where things get interesting. Auction results have shown just how strong demand has become for unusual Washington quarters in specialized sales. Rare varieties from high production years have surprised a lot of people. Even circulated examples, when properly identified and documented, have reached prices above $250,000, yes. Even coins that show wear, and a big reason for that is how difficult they are to confirm. Coins from Philadelphia, like this one, don't carry a visible mint mark. That means collectors can't rely on a simple letter to identify them. Everything comes down to detail, and expert verification, and that added challenge drives even more interest. But here's something important to remember. Collectors don't chase this coin just for the money. They chase it because of what it represents. It proves that valuable coins aren't always old, they aren't always shiny. And they're definitely not always obvious sometimes. The rarest coins are hiding in plain sight. This 1998 Washington Quarter is a perfect example, a slightly larger date, a strong strike, and years of survival turned an everyday coin into something truly collectible. It's a reminder that history doesn't always stand out. Sometimes it sits quietly in a pile of change, waiting for someone to slow down, take a closer look, and notice what everyone else missed. And that's what makes this coin so powerful, not because it looks perfect, but because it lasted long enough to tell its story.